Well, howdy doodly do, everybody. Today, me and my friend Bill have a pen to review for you. This is the Good Blue R615. It's kind of two in one, so I'm going to do the pen and the nib. So, this is the Alchemy Flex Nib. So, it's a steel flex nib from the Good Blue. It's got polymer feed and it's very flexy, so we'll take a look at that as well. I'm just going to start off by saying that this pen is on loan from pensharing.com. So if you've seen a pen online and you want to try before you buy, you can hire one for a week or two through pen sharing to get a feel for the material, the size, the weight, and the writing experience to see if that's the pen for you. Also handy if you've blown your pen budget and you can get that new pen day buzz without the credit card guilt. Service is loved by everyone who uses it, and there is even an initial 3-month trial period. So head to pensharing.com to try out your next pen. Service currently available in UK, Belgium, Netherlands, Norway and the USA. If you've got any questions or you want to know anything about the pen sharing service, email John, the innovator behind pen sharing. So, the Good Blue R615. Start with a pen. Bill, you should have gone by now. Start with a pen and then we'll move on to the nib. So this particular one is in like the white acetate, I think it is. So kind of lighter. They do offer these in different materials. You can get like raw brass and lacquered and whatnot. So this is the lighter one because I would obviously get quite chunky in the old hand with a big weight of brass behind it. You know what I'm saying? Almost certainly not. So the first thing you will probably notice is a massive step down from the barrel into the section there. There's no two ways around it. It is. It's a screw cap, and you got flat spot there as a roll stop in lieu of a clip. But a screw cap unscrews in under a turn, so it's very handy that. So I'm just going to return to this. You can see that on the cap, the flat there doesn't quite line up with this anymore. So look, bearing in mind this is a pen sharing pen that is probably passed through quite a few hands. I don't know, maybe someone's over tightened that at some stage and it's just gone a little bit off there, something to be aware of. But the barrel into the section unit has remained flush. Yeah, tapering down at each end there. So you unscrew it, you got a long section, hefty section, and like I say, big step down there. So your cap threads aren't an issue because there's not much of them, and if you're back up here, that step's going to be bothering you probably more than the threads. So this is the Alchemy nib, which is a steel flex nib, black coated in this case, and polymer feed for extra flow. Now this is empty at the moment, actually. So I received it with a bit of ink in it because I wasn't bothered about receiving it in a bit of ink in it. If you don't want it with a bit of ink in it, you can have it clean if you hire such a thing. Anyway, but once I cleaned it out, I thought I'd leave it just to sort of demonstrate. So you can see, obviously, I believe this starts out white, the polymer feed. Excuse me, but it has retained some blue, so it will retain a bit of colour from the ink that you're filling it up with. That's going to bother you. Just something to be aware of. But obviously, you fill it back up and whatnot. I mean, I flushed water through this; it comes out dead clear, so it's not going to taint any ink that you put in there, or shouldn't do. Just along the ridge there, you've got Good Blue. The Good Blue there. Cartridge converter pen. So that screws off. Then you've got standard international converter in there. Yeah, so this whole nib unit is pretty weighty metal. So I'm not sure whether that's black coated brass or steel or anything. I'm not sure. You might have to go and check out their website. Onto plastic there, but threads are good, and that closes nice and smooth, and there's no rattle or anything in there. Okie dokie. Should we ink it up, or should we look at some measurements first? Let's look at some measurements first. Here I've got some measurements to look at first. So, R615, capped, uncapped. Oh, doesn't post, by the way. Not designed to do that. In millimeters, grams, capped, uncapped, and the cap on its own. Barrel, so starting up here at about 14.9 and then taper it all the way down to 9.8. Sorry, I moved out of frame. Down to the bottom there, and the section is 10 mil, just beyond the thread there. Just tapering in slightly to 9.6 and then flaring back out just towards the nib there. So I will say it's a comfortable section. The step down is going to be the sticking point for many folks, I would say. I'll come back to that. Let's do a quick size comparison with some other pens. So, good blue pops in there. You've got TWSBI Eco, Diplomat Excellence A2, Wingsung 630, Pelican M1000, Leonardo, Momento Zido Grande. Minute. Right, let's go ink this up. Right, so I've just inked this up with Diamine Sargasso AC, which I'm rather into at the minute. So let's do a bit of a writing sample, and then we'll see what all the flex is about. I meant the fuss was about, sorry. So I'll try this just with zero pressure, kind of normal writing, and then we'll move on to the flex. But it is quite soft, so I'll do the best I can. So the good blue. R615? Yeah. R615. Apologies. So this is the Alchemy flex nib. I'm sorry if my writing's a little bit messier than usual. Didn't know it was possible either. But I'm having to use a very light touch just to see if I can put this into... Give you an example of normal writing. No pressure, lightest touches you like. So very nice flow, as you would suspect. It is soft, so I mean, look, I've not put any pressure on that line. So that's just under its own weight. So as you would expect from a flex nib, you've got a good flow on that. It's not actually scratchy either. I mean, sometimes you get flex nib. This might be a little bit scratchy on the normal, but so again, but no pressure on this. But it's nice, just runs over the page. A little bit of feedback, but usable for everyday writing with a light touch. I'm not going to do it fast. It would keep up, but I'd probably just end up flexing it all over the place and whatever. And you don't care. So, line variation. So no pressure. Oh dear. Just because I'm waving it around a bit, probably. Right. Oh dear. I have just inked it, to be fair. So let's just give it a second. As you can see, the feed does saturate, so you do get a really good flow through there, but I have literally just inked it up, so maybe that's what's going on. Here we go. Sorry about that. So I'm getting a bit of just railroad and stuff, but honestly, it's because I've just started it and inked it. I have been enjoying this. As you can see, it flexes up rather nicely when it goes. There we go. So it does have a very good amount of line variation. And to be honest, it is a really soft nib. It's not like you have to really push. Just pressure down slightly and the tines open up very nicely to give you that line. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, see if we can. So I'm not a flex writer, okay? But this is fun. So you do have to slow down. It's bad for me because I write quite fast, so even if I'm slowing down to do something nice, like some flexy words and whatnot, I still do it a bit fast sometimes. So, you know, keeping up with that ink demand, but honestly, it's been performing a little bit better than this. I think it's just because I've just freshly inked that up. Anyway, as you can see, good amount of flex on there. Right. But in the true Blue Peter fashion, I do have something I prepared earlier. So excuse the quality of the writing, because as I say, I'm not a flex writer, but that's what you can get out of it. It's like my stock quote that I can do from my head, unsurprisingly enough. So yeah, look, ignore the standard of the actual writing, because I'm trying to upskill myself to these things and it's not there yet. But you can get some really nice lettering if you know what you're doing, which I don't. And honestly, I think I did this just in one go, and I know it was a little bit hard start here and whatnot just then, but look, I'm waving it around in the air, the cap's off, I've literally just inked it. So whilst I'm not making excuses, I'm just saying, you know, it does work. Okay, that is providing you take the time to slow down. Right, what do I think of this? All right, well, let's start with the pen. I like the pen. I like the flat spot there, so that, you know, you could push it around, but you put that down on your desk, it's not going to roll away. I think if I was going to have one of these, which I have considered from time to time, I might go for like one of the metal lacquered bodies. They do some nice colours and some limited releases. Something to be aware of: if you're uncapping the pen, you want to hold it there, because sometimes you go to uncap it and it uncaps, and sometimes you go to uncap it and you screw the barrel off. So just something to be aware of. You hold it there, you're all good. Elephant in the room, this step down. So hang on, there we go. It's a tricky one, because I thought this would really bother me. I don't mind a bit of a step down, but it is chunky. That is a big step down. Now, when you're using it with this nib, I don't notice it so much, because you're going slow. You know, you're being quite careful. If you're flex writing, you're being quite careful. And I say it doesn't bother me when I'm using it like this. Because I'm kind of going slow, methodical, and concentrating more than I usually would on what I'm actually producing and the quality of it. Because usually there's no quality to speak of, so I'm not bothered. So I don't notice it. The section is long, so there's enough room for your fingers. You've got a little taper in and flare out, so it is really comfortable. I still touch that, but it doesn't feel sharp. Obviously you notice it. Now, depending on where you want to grip, that's going to bother you more than others or not. So it's going to be pretty subjective as to how much that bothers you. But, you know, something to be aware of. If this had a normal nib in it, and I was using it for everyday writing, that might bother me more. Possibly. Having said that, it's not too bad. I feel it on the top of my thumb and finger there. It's one I'd have to try out over a longer writing session. Perhaps I'll get one with a normal nib at some point and report back. The nib is great and I really enjoy it. You've got that polymer feed which soaks up and gives a really good ink flow to that flex nib because you need the extra flow. Looks cool as well, I think. The nib's cool. As I say, I'm not a flex person. It's something I'd like to do. I'd like to have really nice sort of calligraphic writing, and see, there we go. We're in some really good flow there. So that's what you can get out of it. Yeah, I'd like to. I'd like to do all that, but I'm not very good at it yet. So we'll see how we go. But that's the flexiest, most reliable modern flex nib I've used, I think. And it really does take not a lot of effort to get that flexing to that degree. Obviously, you still want to be careful because you can still spring that and whatnot, but it's fun. So yeah, just depending on, I think mainly whether that's going to bug you, but it's a pretty comfortable section. It's just obviously that step that's going to be a bit hit or miss for a lot of folks. But yeah, it's a fun experience. I'm sure I'll end up getting my own at some stage. But it was lovely to have a tryout, courtesy of Pen Sharing. Check out the website. I'll put a link in down there. Have a lovely one. See you on the next one. Take it easy. Bye-bye.